First day in prison. First step into the yard. Another black boy in my house. The boot swept his legs out. Byron Harrison's face hit concrete. Blood bloomed from his lip. Rex Mamba Collins stood over him, white, swastika on his neck. He ground his boot into Byron's skull. "You people keep showing up, like cockroaches," he spat. "This is a white man's yard." 200 inmates watching. Nobody moved. Byron's voice was steady. "I don't want trouble." "You are trouble. Your skin is trouble." Rex kicked his ribs. "Call me master." Silence. Then, quietly, "Yes, master." Rex grinned. "Good boy. Now crawl back to your cell." Byron crawled, blood dripping. In 3 days, this moment would replay before every inmate. The ending would leave them silent. Because the old black man on his knees? 52 fights, 52 victories, 0 defeats. The silent dragon. He was about to make it 53. Rex Collins had ruled this prison for 6 years. His gang, the Aryan Knights, controlled everything. Food distribution, bed assignments, protection money, contraband, information. The guards looked away. Some were on payroll. Others were simply afraid. White inmates paid tribute. Black inmates paid double. Latino inmates paid triple or faced consequences no one discussed openly. Anyone who resisted met Rex in the yard. 14 fights, 14 victories. 3 men never walked again. 2 more ate through straws for months. Byron learned the hierarchy quickly. His first night, he lay in his cell listening to the sounds of prison. Metal doors clanging, men shouting, someone crying 3 cells down. The constant hum of fluorescent lights that never fully shut off. He thought about Kevin, his son, 28 years old, a good man who'd made one desperate choice to protect his family. The drug dealers had threatened Kevin's wife and daughter. When one of them broke into the house, Kevin fought back. The dealer died. Self-defense, any reasonable person would say. But reasonable people didn't make decisions in that courtroom. The prosecutor wanted a conviction. The public defender was overworked. The jury saw a black man and a dead body. Byron had walked into the police station 3 days before the trial. "I did it," he'd said. "My son wasn't there. I killed that man." The confession was false. The evidence was thin. But Byron was convincing. And the system was tired. And a closed case was a closed case. "I've lived my life," he'd told Kevin through the visitation glass. "You have a wife, a daughter, a future. I have memories. That's enough." Kevin had wept, begged him to recant. Byron refused. Now he was here, serving 15 years for a crime he didn't commit, waiting for the appeal that might free his son, waiting to disappear into the system. He hadn't planned on becoming visible. The prison was segregated by unwritten law. White tables in the cafeteria, black tables along the wall, Latino tables near the windows. Mixing meant consequences. Byron sat alone, ate slowly, watched everything. Rex held court at the center table. His lieutenants flanked him like generals around a warlord. Carter, massive, with SS bolts tattooed on his forearms, handled enforcement. Miller, lean and cruel with dead eyes, managed the money. Thompson, whom everyone called the Butcher, did things no one spoke about. They laughed loudly, took food from passing trays, made inmates kneel to retrieve dropped items. Every interaction was a performance, a reminder of who held power. Byron observed Rex's movements, the way he walked, chest out, shoulders back, taking up space like the world owed him room. The way he threw practice punches at his men, wild hooks, telegraphed jabs, street fighting learned in back alleys and bar brawls, powerful but undisciplined, dangerous but predictable. 52 opponents had made that mistake, mistaking aggression for skill, mistaking size for superiority, mistaking loud for strong. Byron had beaten them all. The Silent Dragon, 3-time world kung fu heavyweight champion, undefeated across 15 years of professional competition. He'd retired at 40 to open a school, to teach, to build something beyond trophies. Then Sarah got sick. Then she died. Then Kevin got in trouble. Then Byron walked into that police station. Now he was 55, gray-haired, deliberately small, an old black man in a prison run by white supremacists. Invisible. Just the way he wanted. Terrell Washington changed that. The kid was 20 years old, skinny, scared, 3 weeks inside for petty theft, stealing food to feed his younger sister after their mother's overdose. He sat at Byron's table one evening, hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his fork. "You're the new guy, the one Rex made crawl." Byron nodded. "How do you stand it? The things they say, the things they do. Every day they find new ways to remind us we're nothing here. By remembering why I'm here. Why are you here?" Byron looked at the young man, saw the fear, the confusion, the desperate hope that someone, anyone, had answers. To protect someone I love, that's worth any humiliation, any pain, any amount of crawling. Terrell didn't understand. Not yet. But he kept sitting there. Something about the old man felt safe, like the eye of a hurricane, calm while chaos raged around it. The next day, Carter intercepted Terrell in the meal line. "Protection fees due, boy. I paid last week." "That was last week." Carter smiled, teeth yellow, breath foul. "Interest. You know how it works. I don't have anything left. I gave you everything." "Then you better find something, or find another way to pay." The implication hung in the air. Terrell's face went pale. "Please, I'll get it. Just give me time." The slap echoed across the cafeteria. Terrell crumpled against the serving counter, his tray scattered, food everywhere. His lips split open, blood mixing with mashed potatoes on the floor. "Clean it up," Carter said. "With your tongue." 200 inmates suddenly fascinated by their own meals. Eyes down, mouths shut. Survival meant not seeing. Terrell looked around, desperate, hoping. Nobody moved. He lowered his head toward the floor. "Leave him alone." Every head turned. Byron stood 3 tables away. His voice was calm, quiet, but it carried like thunder in the silence. Carter laughed. "The crawler speaks. You forget your place already, old man? He's a child. He has nothing. He can't pay what he doesn't have. Leave him alone." "Or what?" The question hung between them. The whole cafeteria waited. Byron said nothing. Carter walked toward him, slow, deliberate, each step a threat. He stopped inches from Byron's face, close enough that Byron could smell the onions on his breath. "Rex already marked you. He marked your property. You don't get to speak. You don't get to look at me. You don't get to exist unless we say so." Byron held his gaze, steady, unblinking. "I said leave him alone." Carter's fist came fast. A sucker punch meant to drop him, end the conversation, establish order. Byron moved, slight, almost imperceptible. The fist grazed his cheek instead of shattering his jaw. Carter stumbled forward, thrown off balance by hitting nothing. He caught himself on a table, turned, confusion mixing with rage. The cafeteria went silent. Byron hadn't thrown a punch, hadn't raised his hands. He'd simply moved, like water around a stone. Carter attacked again, wild hook. Byron shifted, straight jab. Byron tilted, overhead smash. Byron stepped. Each time, minimal movement, maximum efficiency. Each time, Carter hit air. "Enough!" Rex's voice cut through the chaos. He strode toward them. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. "What do we have here?" He circled Byron, studying, reassessing. "The crawler has some moves. Where'd you learn that, old man? Some ghetto dojo? Some YouTube video?" Byron's eyes met his. Calm. Almost sad. "I don't want to fight." "Nobody asked what you want." Rex grabbed Byron's collar, yanked him close. "But you just made things interesting. 3 days. You and me, center of the yard. Everyone watches. And if I refuse," Rex pointed at Terrell. The boy was still on the floor, shaking. "Then he takes your place, and I won't be gentle." Byron looked at Terrell, saw the terror, saw the resignation, saw a 20-year-old kid who'd done nothing wrong except be poor and black in the wrong place. Fine. Rex released him, stepped back, grinned. 3 days, old man. Try not to die of fear before then. He walked away. His men followed, laughter trailing behind them like exhaust. Terrell scrambled to Byron's side. Why did you do that? He's going to kill you. You know that, right? He's going to kill you. And Byron helped the young man to his feet, wiped the blood from his lip with a napkin. Some things are worth dying for. Like what? Like making sure a 20-year-old boy doesn't have to lick food off the floor. Like remembering that we're human even when they try to convince us we're not. Word spread like fire through dry grass. By dinner, everyone knew. By lights out, bets were being placed. By morning, the odds were set. 100-1 against Byron. Dead man walking, someone muttered in the yard. Mamba's gonna tear him apart. I give him 30 seconds, maybe less. Shame. Old guy seemed decent. Decent don't mean nothing in here. Strong means something. Decent just means dead. The betting pools grew. Cigarettes, commissary credits, favors. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. Everyone knew the outcome. Rex made a show of it. He set up a training area in the corner of the yard, did pull-ups while his men counted loudly. 100, 150, 200. Each number shouted like a countdown to Byron's destruction. He shadowboxed while inmates gathered to watch. His fists were fast. His combinations were brutal. Hooks that could crack ribs, uppercuts that could shatter jaws. 3 days until I put another black body in the infirmary, he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe the morgue. Depends on my mood. Depends on how much he begs. His men laughed. The crowd murmured nervously. Byron spent those 3 days quietly. He worked his laundry detail, folded sheets, sorted uniforms, kept his head down and his hands busy. He ate alone. Same corner, same silence. He watched. Rex's footwork was sloppy. He dropped his left shoulder before throwing his right hook. He telegraphed his jabs with a slight shift of his front foot. He had power but no patience. Aggression but no discipline. 14 fights. 14 wins. All against men who didn't know how to fight. Men who were scared. Men who were smaller. Men who had already lost before the first punch was thrown. Rex had never faced someone who'd trained. Someone who'd dedicated their life to the art of combat. Someone who understood that fighting wasn't about strength. It was about timing, distance, angles, control. 52 opponents had learned that lesson. Most of them much younger than Rex. Many of them more talented. All of them defeated. Officer Sandra Mitchell found Byron in the chapel on the second night. She was one of the few guards who looked inmates in the eye, who used their names instead of numbers, who remembered that orange jumpsuits contained human beings. You know what you're walking into? Byron looked up from the pew. He'd been sitting in silence. Not praying exactly, just being. I know. Rex has hospitalized 6 men seriously. Permanent damage. 1 death, ruled self-defense, but everyone knows the truth. She sat beside him, kept her voice low. He enjoys it. The violence. The power. The fear in their eyes before he breaks them. I know. Then why? Why not refuse? Request protective custody? I could arrange solitary. It's not comfortable, but you'd be alive. Would you put Terrell in solitary with me? She was quiet. That's why. Sandra studied him, the calm in his eyes, the certainty in his posture. He didn't sit like a man facing death. He sat like a man facing a Tuesday. Who are you, really? Your file is strange. Sealed records, redacted sections. Half your history is blacked out. I'm nobody. Just an old man serving time for a crime I confessed to. Nobody moves the way you moved in that cafeteria. Carter's fast. He's dropped men half your age with that sucker punch. You made him look like a child swinging at smoke. Byron stood, walked toward the small window. Moonlight cut across his face. Everyone looks like a child when they've never faced someone who trained. Trained where? How long? I've seen boxing. I've seen MMA. What you did wasn't either of those things. It was something older. How old? He almost smiled. Very. He moved toward the door. Another life, Officer Mitchell. It doesn't matter now. What matters is the next 3 days. What matters is making sure that boy doesn't pay for my choices. He left. Sandra sat in the empty chapel for a long time. Then she pulled out her phone and started searching. It took hours. The records were buried, old sports archives, championship results from 2 decades ago, news articles that had faded into digital obscurity. But she found it. A photograph. A younger face, stronger, fiercer, but the same eyes, the same calm, the same quiet certainty. Byron, the Silent Dragon Harrison, 3-time World Kung Fu heavyweight champion, retired undefeated with a record of 52-0. She kept reading. Known for his defensive style and devastating counterattacks, famous for ending fights with a single technique called the Phoenix Rise, a palm strike that incapacitated opponents without causing permanent injury, considered one of the greatest martial artists of his generation. Sandra's hands were shaking. She ran to Byron's cell. He was sitting on his bunk, eyes open, waiting. I know who you are. He didn't react. The Silent Dragon. 52 wins, 0 losses. You're not just trained, you're a legend. One of the best fighters who ever lived. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What are you doing here? Why are you hiding? Byron was silent for a long moment. Because my son needed me to hide. He made a mistake. Self-defense that the law didn't see as self-defense. They were going to put him away for 20 years. He has a wife, a daughter, a life. So you confessed. So I confessed. That's... She couldn't find the word. That's what fathers do. Sandra gripped the bars. Rex doesn't know. Nobody knows. You could end him in seconds. I've seen the videos, your fights. You took down men twice his size without breaking a sweat. Why pretend to be weak? Why let them humiliate you? Because strength isn't about ending people. Byron met her eyes. It's about choosing when to use it. And why. For 52 fights, I used it for trophies, for ego, for proving I was the best. That was empty. That was meaningless. And this isn't? This is for something real. A boy who needs to know that someone will stand for him. A yard full of men who need to see that power doesn't have to be cruel. A message that hate doesn't win just because it's loud. That's a lot to put on one fight. It's everything. It's the only fight that ever mattered. Sandra backed away. Her mind was racing. What are you going to do tomorrow? Byron's voice was quiet, certain, like a judge delivering a sentence that had already been decided. Whatever I have to. Dawn came gray and heavy, the yard filled early. Word had spread beyond the usual channels. Everyone wanted a good spot. Everyone wanted to see. 200 inmates forming a circle, a coliseum of concrete and flesh. Guards watching from towers, weapons ready but irrelevant. This was sanctioned violence. Pressure release. The system's way of maintaining order through controlled chaos. Rex entered first, shirtless, muscles gleaming with oil. The swastika on his neck seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. SS bolts on his arms, iron cross on his chest. His body was a canvas of hate, painted over years of choosing who to be. He raised his arms to the cheers of his men. Mamba! 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 The chant echoed off the walls. He shadowboxed, threw combinations at the air, each punch designed to intimidate, each movement screaming, I am power, I am violence, I am your end. Byron entered from the other side, gray jumpsuit, sleeves rolled to his elbows, hands at his sides, walking slowly, steadily. Looking exactly like what everyone expected, a dead man taking his final steps. Laughter rippled through the crowd. This is going to be quick. Someone call the medics early. Crawler's about to get crawled on. 52 years old and he thinks he can fight. Sad, really. Rex grinned, the smile of a predator who'd already tasted blood in his mind. Any last words, boy? Byron stopped 10 feet away, his voice carried across the silent yard. Calm, clear, without a trace of fear. I'll give you one chance. Walk away. End this peacefully. Change what you're building here. The laughter exploded. Rex doubled over, slapped his knee. Walk away? Walk away! He wiped his eyes. You hear this? The crawler wants mercy. The old black man thinks he can give me a chance. More laughter. His men howled. Byron waited, patient, still. Here's what's going to happen, Rex said, stepping closer. His voice dropped, intimate, terrifying. I'm going to break you, slowly, one bone at a time. First your fingers, then your wrists, then your arms. And when you're screaming for your mama, when you're crying and begging and pissing yourself, I'm going to make you say 2 words before I let them carry you out. What words? Rex leaned in, whispered. White. Power. I won't say that. You will. They all do. By the end. When the pain is enough. When they understand their place. And if I don't, then I keep breaking until you do, or until there's nothing left to break. Byron's eyes never wavered. I won't say it, not because I'm brave, but because it's not true. And some lies aren't worth living. Rex's smile vanished. Your funeral, boy. He attacked. The first punch was a straight right. Full power. No warning. The kind of punch that had ended fights in seconds. That had shattered orbital bones and collapsed cheekbones. It hit nothing. Byron shifted. Minimal movement. The fist sailed past his ear close enough to feel the wind. Rex stumbled forward. Recovered. Confusion flickered across his face. He attacked again. Left hook, right cross, left uppercut. A combination that had dropped bigger men, faster men, younger men. Each punch found air. Byron moved like water, like smoke, like something that existed in the spaces between moments. He didn't retreat, didn't advance, simply occupied a different space than Rex's fists. The crowd went quiet. What the? How is he doing that? Why isn't he going down? 1 minute passed. 2, 3. Rex was breathing hard. Sweat poured down his face. His arms were getting heavy. His combinations were getting sloppy. Byron hadn't thrown a single punch. Fight back! Rex screamed. Stop running, you coward! I'm not running. And he wasn't. Byron had barely moved from his original position. 3 steps left, 2 steps right. A slight pivot here, a small lean there. That was all. Earl, 60 years old, former professional boxer, 30 years inside, pushed through the crowd. His weathered face had gone pale. I know that defense, he muttered. I know that footwork. I've seen it before. He grabbed the man next to him, shook him. That's the Silent Dragon, 3-time world champion. I watched him fight on TV when I was still free. He moved exactly like that. Nobody could touch him. Nobody. The whispers spread like wildfire. Silent Dragon? World champion? The old black guy? 52-0? Impossible. He's just some old man. Look at him. Look at how he moves. That's not luck. That's mastery. Rex heard none of it. His world had narrowed to this impossible old man who wouldn't fall, who wouldn't bleed, who wouldn't break. Stand still and fight, he charged. Full body tackle, all his weight behind it. Byron sidestepped, extended 1 foot. Rex tripped over it, hit the concrete face first, rolled, came up with gravel embedded in his cheek and murder in his eyes. I'm going to kill you. You can't hit what you can't see. Byron's voice was still calm, still quiet. You can't hurt what you can't reach. You can't break what doesn't fear you. Who are you? Byron assumed a stance for the first time. Feet shoulder width, knees slightly bent, hands raised in a position that looked almost casual, relaxed. The entire yard held its breath. Earl fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Phoenix stance. That's Phoenix stance, his signature. Oh my God, it's really him. You wanted to know what I am, Byron said. I'm a father who sacrificed everything for his son. I'm a man who spent 30 years learning that skill beats size, that discipline beats rage, that heart beats hate. I'm a man who won 52 fights by understanding that the real battle is never about fists. Rex attacked again. Desperate. A wild overhand right. Byron caught his wrist. Twisted. Used Rex's momentum against him. Rex spun through the air, landed on his back. The impact drove the breath from his lungs. He tried to rise. Byron's foot rested lightly on his chest. Not pressing, not hurting, just present. I'm the silent dragon, and you made a mistake. Rex stared up at him. For the first time in 6 years, genuine fear lived in his eyes. The fear of a man who suddenly understood that everything he believed was wrong. What mistake? You judged me by my skin, by my age, by your assumptions. Byron's voice softened. You saw a black man and saw weakness. You saw gray hair and saw frailty. You saw someone crawling and saw someone broken. He removed his foot, stepped back. Get up. Rex scrambled to his feet, fists raised, trembling now. This doesn't change anything. You're still... Still what? Still black? Byron's voice was sad now, heavy with something old. Yes, I am. And I've faced men like you my whole life. Men who hate what they don't understand. Men who fear what they can't control. Men who make themselves big because they feel so small inside. I'm not afraid of you! Yes, you are. You've been afraid your whole life. That's why you need the tattoos, the gang, the throne. You're so afraid of being nothing that you became this instead. Rex charged one final time, everything he had, everything he was. A lifetime of hate and fear compressed into one desperate attack. Byron moved. One motion. Circular. Rising. His palm struck Rex's chest. Phoenix rise. The signature technique. The one that had ended 40 of his 52 professional fights. The one that channeled an opponent's momentum into a single devastating point. The one that masters spent decades trying to perfect. Rex flew backward, 6 feet through the air. He hit the ground and didn't move, not unconscious, not dead, but unable to move. His nervous system had simply paused. Every signal from brain to muscle interrupted by the precision of that strike. Silence. Complete. Total. Absolute. 200 inmates staring at an old black man standing over their fallen king. Earl was sobbing now. One touch. He ended Mamba with one touch. I told you all. The whisper became a roar. Silent Dragon! 52-0. 53 now! Byron walked to where Rex lay, knelt beside him. I could have done this the first second. Before you threw your first punch. Before you said your first word. I didn't. Rex's voice was barely a whisper. Why? Because hurting you was never the point. Beating you was never the goal. Byron's eyes held his. I wanted you to understand. Understand what? That the man you called boy, the man you made crawl, the man you spat on and kicked and promised to destroy, he showed you mercy, not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough to choose. A tear leaked from the corner of Rex's eye. Why? After everything I said, everything I did, why show mercy? Because hate answered with hate just makes more hate. And I'm tired of hate. I've spent my whole life fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to teach. I want to build. I want to show people like you that there's another way. He stood. The terms of our deal. You remember them? Rex nodded. Barely. Your gang dissolves. No more protection money. No more beatings. No more hierarchy based on skin color. For 1 year, This yard belongs to everyone equally. And if I don't honor it? Byron looked down at him. Then we have this conversation again. And next time, I won't aim for your chest. I'll aim for your heart. And Phoenix Rise to the heart doesn't just pause you. It stops you. Permanently. He turned and walked away. The crowd parted before him. Silent. Reverent. The silent dragon had risen, and nothing would be the same. Rex lay on the concrete for a long time. His men didn't help him. They stood frozen, uncertain. The hierarchy they'd built, white over black, strong over weak, hate over humanity, had crumbled in 3 seconds. Finally, Carter stepped forward, extended a hand. Rex stared at it, then took it, rose to his feet on shaky legs. His body still wasn't responding properly. The Phoenix Rise had disrupted something fundamental. His hands trembled. His vision blurred at the edges. But worse than the physical effects was the psychological devastation. He'd lost. Not just the fight. Not just his reputation. Not just his power. He'd lost his certainty, his worldview, his identity. For 6 years, he'd believed that power came from domination, that strength came from cruelty, that his skin color made him superior to men with darker skin. An old black man had just dismantled all of it without breaking a sweat. The yard dispersed slowly. Conversations hummed. The story was already being told and retold, embellished, mythologized. Did you see it? 1 touch. The old guy's a legend, world champion. 52 fights, never lost. Now 53. Mamba didn't land a single punch. Not one. Silent Dragon. They call him the Silent Dragon. Byron found Terrell waiting outside the cell block. The young man's eyes were wide, wet. Something that looked like hope lived in them for the first time since he'd arrived. You did that. For me. You risked everything. I did it for everyone. You just happened to be the reason. I don't understand. Byron put a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to understand. Just remember. Remember that someone stood for you. And when you're able, when you're strong enough, stand for someone else. That's how it works. That's how we survive. What happens now? Rex's gang? They'll come after you. After both of us. No. They won't. How do you know? Because men follow power. And power just changed hands. He was right. By evening, the first defections began. White inmates who'd been pressed into the Aryan Knights, who'd joined out of fear rather than conviction, started distancing themselves. Black inmates who'd been paying double protection walked the yard without looking over their shoulders. The invisible lines that had segregated the cafeteria began to blur. Not disappear, not yet. Change takes time. But blur. Sandra found Byron in the chapel again that night. You could have killed him. Yes. Why didn't you? Because killing is easy. Living with killing is hard. And because dead men don't change. They just stop. He looked at the simple cross on the wall. I wanted him to live with what happened. To remember. To think about it every night before he sleeps, and every morning when he wakes. You think he'll change? I think change is possible. That's all we can ever say. I planted a seed. What grows from it is up to him. That's surprisingly optimistic. I've been fighting my whole life. If I've learned anything, it's that the fights worth having are the ones you might lose. The ones where the outcome isn't certain. The ones where you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. What do you believe in? Byron was quiet for a moment. Second chances. The capacity of human beings to become more than their worst moments. The idea that hate is learned, which means it can be unlearned. He turned to face her. Even in places like this, even in men like Rex, there's always something human buried underneath. Sometimes you have to dig. Sometimes you have to fight. But it's there. That's a lot of faith. It's not faith. It's evidence. I've seen men change. I've seen enemies become friends. I've seen hatred transform into respect. He paused. Not always, not everyone, but enough. Enough to keep trying. 2 weeks passed. The yard transformed. The Aryan Knights fractured. Some members drifted away. Others grouped together, uncertain what to do without Rex's leadership. A few quietly approached Byron, asking questions they'd never dared ask before. How did you learn to fight like that? What's it feel like to be undefeated? Can anyone learn what you know? Byron answered them all with patience, with honesty, with the same calm that had defined his entire career. Anyone can learn. It just takes time, discipline, the willingness to be bad at something before you're good at it. Would you teach us? He looked at the men asking, white, black, Latino, all of them carrying wounds, physical and otherwise, all of them searching for something they couldn't name. Yes, I'll teach anyone who wants to learn. The classes started small. Terrell, 2 other black inmates who'd been terrorized by Rex's regime. Then, surprisingly, Carter. The big man approached Byron after the 3rd session. I want in. Why? Carter struggled with the answer. His face, scarred, hard, accustomed to cruelty, worked through emotions it had never been asked to process. Because what you did to Rex, I've never seen anything like it. I've been hurting people my whole life. I thought that was strength. I thought that was power. He swallowed. I was wrong. The tattoos on your arms, the SS bolts. What do they mean to you? Carter looked down at them. His jaw tightened. They meant I belonged somewhere. They meant I had brothers who'd die for me. He paused. They meant I was scared and looking for someone to blame. Do they still mean that? A long silence. I don't know anymore. I don't know what anything means anymore. Byron nodded. That's where change starts. In the not knowing. In the willingness to question what you've always believed. He gestured toward the group. Join us. Learn. See what happens. Carter joined. Others followed. By the end of the 3rd week, Byron was teaching a class of 15 men every morning, all races, all backgrounds, all searching. They learned basic stances, breathing techniques, simple forms. But more than that, they learned something else, something harder to name. Discipline. Self-control. The understanding that true strength was never about dominating others. It was about mastering yourself. Rex watched from his cell. Every morning. The old black man teaching. His former enemies, former victims, standing in phoenix stance, moving through forms, learning to breathe. His former Lieutenant Carter among them. Something twisted in his chest. At first he named it anger, then hatred, then betrayal. But slowly, over days, over weeks, he recognized it for what it really was. Envy. They were learning something he'd never had, building something he'd always wanted, belonging to something that didn't require hate to hold it together. On the 23rd day, Rex left his cell. He walked across the yard. Every eye followed him, the man who'd been destroyed, the king who'd fallen. He stopped at the edge of Byron's class. Terrell tensed. Carter shifted his weight. Even Byron paused mid-instruction. Can I help you? The old man's voice was neutral, neither welcoming nor rejecting. Rex's throat worked. The words fought to stay inside. Teach me. Murmurs rippled through the group, through the watching crowd. What? Teach me. What you taught them. What you know. Byron stepped closer. His eyes searched Rex's face. Why? Because... Rex struggled. His whole body resisted what he was about to say. Because I've been fighting my whole life, and I never knew what fighting actually meant. I thought it was about hurting people, making them afraid, making myself feel powerful. And now? Now I don't know what I think. But what you did to me, that wasn't about hurting. That was something else. Something I don't have words for. Control. What? What you saw. What you felt. It was control. Over myself. Not over you. Byron's voice softened slightly. The Phoenix Rise could have killed you. Should have, by all physical logic. But I chose where to direct it. I chose to stop you without destroying you. Why? After everything I said, everything I did to you, to people like you. Because destruction is easy. Anyone can destroy. It takes nothing. No skill, no discipline, no courage. Creation is hard. Transformation is hard. Giving someone a chance they don't deserve is the hardest thing of all. Rex's eyes dropped to the ground. I don't deserve a chance. No, you don't. But that's what makes mercy meaningful. If you deserved it, it wouldn't be mercy. It would just be justice. A long silence stretched between them. The tattoos, Byron said finally. What will you do about them? Rex's hand went to his neck, the swastika he'd worn like a badge of honor, the symbol of everything he'd built his identity around. I want them gone, all of them. I've wanted them gone since I hit that concrete. His voice cracked. They don't mean what I thought they meant. They don't make me strong, they just make me marked. Removing them won't change who you were. I know, but maybe it's a start. Maybe it's a way to say that who I was isn't who I have to be. Byron considered this, weighed it. Then he stepped aside, gestured to an open spot in the group. Phoenix stance, feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, hands here. Rex hesitated, looked at the other students. Terrell, the boy he'd terrorized. Carter, his former lieutenant. Men he'd hurt. Men he'd degraded. They looked back at him, uncertain, wary, but no one objected. He took his place among them. And for the first time in his life, Rex Collins started to learn. The days blended together. Byron taught. Rex learned. Slowly. Painfully. His body fought against the new movements. His mind fought against the new ideas. But he kept showing up. Every morning. Same spot. Same stance. He stopped giving orders. Started asking questions. He stopped taking food from others. Started sharing what he had. He stopped demanding fear. Started earning something else. Respect was too strong a word. But something was shifting. In the yard. In the men, in Rex himself. Sandra watched it all with amazement. I've worked in prisons for 15 years, she told Byron one evening. I've never seen anything like this. You're changing the entire ecosystem. I'm not changing anything. They're changing themselves. I'm just showing them it's possible. You're too humble. I'm too honest. Change comes from within. Always. All I did was crack the door open. They're the ones choosing to walk through. Will it last? When you leave. Byron was quiet. His appeal was coming. Kevin's conviction had been overturned. The real killer, one of the other dealers, had confessed. Soon, Byron would be free. I don't know. Maybe it falls apart the day I walk out. Maybe Rex goes back to being Mamba. Maybe the Aryan Knights reform. Maybe all of this was just a pause, not a change. That doesn't worry you? No. Because even if it falls apart, something happened here. These men saw something different. They experienced something different. That memory doesn't disappear. It stays with them forever. And maybe, years from now, when they're faced with a choice, hate or hope, destruction or creation, maybe they remember this moment. Maybe it tips the scale. That's a lot of faith in human nature. It's all the faith I have left, and it's enough. Byron's last day in the yard. Word had spread. The silent dragon was leaving. The appeal had gone through. The charges had been dropped. They gathered without being asked. Not 200 men this time. Not everyone cared. Not everyone had changed. But enough. 50, 60. White and black and brown standing together in a way that would have been impossible a month ago. Byron stood in the center. Rex stood beside him. The swastika on Rex's neck was gone now. Raw skin remained, red and healing. It had cost him 6 months of commissary credits and hours of pain. But it was gone. "Most of you know what happened 4 weeks ago," Byron began, his voice carried easily in the morning quiet. "A man who hated me for my skin tried to break me. Instead, something else broke. Something that needed breaking." He looked at Rex. "This man called me boy, made me crawl, spat on me, promised to destroy me because of the color of my skin. He represented everything I've fought against my whole life." The crowd was silent, listening. Today, this same man is my student. He stands here with his hate literally burned off his body. He's learning what I know. Not to hurt people, but to control himself. Not to dominate, but to discipline. Not to hate, but to choose. Byron placed his hand on Rex's shoulder. "I'm leaving tomorrow, but he's staying. And he's going to keep teaching. He's going to take what I've shown him and pass it on. To anyone who wants to learn. Black, white, anyone." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "That's the deal we made. Not the one about the gang. That was just the beginning. The real deal is harder. It's about becoming someone new, someone better. Someone who can look at another human being and see human first." Rex stepped forward. His voice was rough, uncertain. Public speaking had never been his strength. Public vulnerability had never been his practice. "Most of you know me as Mamba. You know what I did, what I stood for, what I believed." He paused, swallowed. "I was wrong. About all of it. I spent 32 years building my identity around hate, believing that my skin made me better, that hurting people made me strong, that fear was the same as respect." He looked at Byron. "This man showed me different. He could have killed me. Should have killed me, maybe. Instead, he taught me. He gave me something I didn't deserve, a chance to be something other than what I was." His hand went to his neck, to the raw skin where the swastika used to live. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned that. I might never earn it. But I'm asking for the chance to try. To spend however long I have left in this place being different, being better." He turned to the crowd. "Anyone who wants to learn what Byron taught me, I'll be here. Every morning, same time, same place. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you did. If you want to change, if you want to be more than your worst moments, the door is open." Silence. Then Terrell started clapping. Slow, deliberate. Others joined. Carter, Earl. Men who'd watched. Men who'd waited. Men who'd hoped that something like this was possible. Not everyone. Not even most. But enough. Enough to matter. Enough to say that change was real. Byron watched with something that might have been tears in his eyes. "This isn't a victory," he said quietly to Sandra, who'd come to watch. "It's a beginning. Maybe the beginning of something better. Maybe just a pause before things go back to how they were." "Which do you think it is?" "I think it's up to them. It's always up to them. All any teacher can do is plant seeds. What grows is beyond our control. For what it's worth, I think these seeds have roots." Byron looked at Rex teaching the morning form to a group of inmates. Black and white together. Learning the same movements, breathing the same rhythm. "I hope so. I really hope so." The morning Byron left, it was raining. Gray skies. Water running in rivers across the concrete. The kind of day that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Kevin was waiting outside the gates. His son. 28 years old. Free now. Cleared of all charges. The real killer had confessed. Guilt or plea deal, Byron didn't know and didn't care. What mattered was that Kevin was free. "Dad!" The embrace was fierce, desperate. 15 years of separation compressed into a single moment. "It's over," Kevin whispered. "It's finally over." "Not over, just changing. Life doesn't end, son. It just changes. They walked to the car. Byron paused at the door, looked back at the prison one last time. Somewhere in there, Rex was teaching morning forms. Terrell was learning Phoenix stance. Carter was struggling with breathing techniques. Earl was watching it all with tears in his eyes. Something had been built, something fragile and new and uncertain. Something that might survive, might grow, might become more than he'd ever imagined, or might crumble the moment he left. That was the nature of seeds. You planted them and hoped. That was all you could do. "Dad, you okay?" Byron turned back to his son, smiled. "I'm okay, let's go home." "Let's go." They drove in silence for a while. The prison shrinking in the rearview mirror, the world expanding before them. "I heard what you did in there," Kevin said finally. "The fight, the teaching, everything. It's all anyone talks about. The silent dragon returns. People like stories." "It's more than a story. You changed things, in a place where nothing ever changes. I showed them something different. Whether they change is up to them. It's always up to them." "Do you think they will? The gang leader? Rex? Do you think he's really different?" Byron watched the rain streak across the window, thought about Rex's face as he removed his stance, the uncertainty, the fear, the fragile hope. "I think he's trying. That's more than most people ever do. Most people never question what they believe, never consider that they might be wrong. Rex questioned. He reconsidered. He took the first step. And if he falls back? Goes back to being what he was? Then he falls back. Then I was wrong about him. But at least he had the chance. At least someone believed in him enough to offer it. You're more forgiving than I would be. I've had 52 fights to learn something, son. Every opponent I ever faced. They were all like Rex in some way. Scared, angry, looking for something to prove. Every one of them was a human being who'd made choices that led them to that moment. Some of them were good people who'd made bad choices. Some were bad people who'd never been shown another way. He turned to look at Kevin. Hate is easy. It requires nothing. You just look at someone and decide they're less than you. But understanding, that's hard. That requires seeing past the surface, seeing the fear behind the hate, the pain behind the cruelty, the human behind the monster. Is that what you saw in Rex? The human behind the monster? I saw a scared little boy who'd built a fortress of hate because he didn't know how else to survive. I saw someone who'd never been offered kindness and didn't know how to respond to it. I saw myself, in some ways, the person I could have become if different choices had been made. You're nothing like him. I could have been. If my father hadn't taught me discipline, if my mother hadn't taught me compassion, if I hadn't found martial arts and learned that true strength is restraint, not violence. He paused. I had advantages Rex never had. It's not fair to judge him for who he became when he started with so much less. Kevin shook his head. I don't know if I can be that understanding. You don't have to be. Not yet. Understanding comes with time, with experience, with enough fights to realize that winning isn't the point. Byron smiled. You have your whole life ahead of you. You'll learn. What will you do now? Go back to teaching? Maybe. Maybe something different. I've spent my whole life fighting and teaching fighting. Maybe it's time to teach something else. Like what? Like what I learned in that prison, that enemies can become students, that hate can become hope. That change is possible, even in the darkest places, if someone is willing to plant the seed. They drove on. 3 months later, a letter arrived. Sandra's handwriting. Byron opened it in the small apartment he'd rented. Simple. Quiet. A place to rebuild. Dear Byron, I thought you'd want to know what's happening inside. Rex kept his word. The classes continue. Every morning, rain or shine. He has 30 students now. Black, white, Latino, all training together. The guards don't know what to make of it. He got all the tattoos removed, every one. His arms, his chest, his neck, all clean. He said it hurt more than anything he'd ever felt, but he said it was worth it, said every bit of pain was him earning back a piece of his humanity. He's not perfect. He still struggles. Sometimes the old anger comes back. Sometimes he says things he regrets, but he keeps trying. He keeps showing up. He keeps teaching what you taught him. Terrell is his best student. The kid you saved is now teaching others. He'll be released in 6 months. He says he wants to open a community center in his old neighborhood. Teach kids what he learned. Give them something he never had. I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've never seen anything like what you started. I've never believed change was possible in places like this. Now I do. Thank you. Sandra. A photograph was enclosed. Rex, shirtless, his skin clean. No swastika, no SS bolts, no Iron Cross. Just skin, just human. Beside him, Terrell. Both in Phoenix stance, both teaching a group of young inmates, both smiling. Byron held the photograph for a long time. Then he pinned it to his wall. Not a victory, not a complete one. The world was still full of hate. Prisons were still full of Rexes waiting to become Mambas. The work would never be done. But in this moment, captured in this image, something had changed. Two men who should have been enemies stood together, teaching, learning, growing. A seed had been planted, and something was growing. I won 52 fights in my life, Byron thought. Championship after championship. People called me a legend, called me undefeated. But the only fight that ever mattered was the one I couldn't win with fists. The fight against hate, against fear, against the voice that tells us some people are less than others. That fight never ends. You don't win it with a knockout. You win it one person at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. Rex was one moment. Terrell was another. 30 students learning Phoenix stance in a prison yard. That's 30 more. And somewhere in that yard, more moments are happening. More choices being made. More people deciding who they want to be. That's not a victory. It's something better. It's a beginning. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. Byron Harrison, the silent dragon, undefeated champion, father, teacher, prisoner, free man, closed his eyes and breathed. The fight continues. It always does. But so does the hope. Always.
Sometimes the most powerful revolutions don't come with noise, just one person standing their ground. At Beat Stories, we highlight those moments that shift the balance. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because every week we bring real stories that shake the system.